And we are live. Welcome everybody to the group as our group members are getting and joining us. You could be watching us from YouTube Live, and if you are, welcome. We you can't comment from YouTube Live, but you can be sitting on your couch on a Friday evening watching with a glass of wine, and that's pretty cool. You could also be watching this from our YouTube group. And I don't see anybody that has joined us from the group or our YouTube page, but we're going to give this thing a few minutes and allow some of these people to come in here and join us. It is 12:01 right now, and we've got one person that joined us live. And so I'm going to go into the comments and if you could, please, whoever's in there in the room joining us, go ahead and chat. Tell us who you are. Tell us about your nonprofit. And tell us whatever you'd like to tell us as we get rolling. I'm going to now introduce our panelists. To the right of me is Joshua Brumbach, who is actually my cousin and is a Messianic Jewish rabbi, and he gets to talk to us in a little bit and tell us all about how a family of Pentecostals got a rabbi in there, and perhaps you can talk a little bit about fundraising in your church. We'll get back to that in a minute. Jeff Kelly is also here. Jeff from Butterfly Fundraising and is a marketing guru and turned fundraising consultant. And Jeff, go ahead and welcome to the group as well. You guys want to chat for a minute while we're letting people come in? Please do so. I'll tee you up first, Josh.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much, Rob, for having us on with you. And I hope that whatever we can, whatever wisdom or guidance that we can provide today will be helpful for other listeners and others who work in the nonprofit world.
Thank you very much. Jeff, you want to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Kelly. I'm with Butterfly. We are a fundraising strategy team. We focus on nonprofits. We also provide online marketing services, so your websites, your social media, your Google ad grant management. And we focus on nonprofits that have a revenue side goal. So you're trying to figure out how to generate more revenue as part of your activities for the year. You might be a solo executive director. You might be a board member. You might be a development director with a team. We can support all of you with some fantastic fundraising strategy and then back that up with your online marketing support if you want to bring those two things together with one team.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff, for that. I look forward to collaborating with you. I like to work with other consultants. I don't look at you guys as competition. We've got a lot of nonprofits to serve, and we're doing the Lord's work here. And I look forward to an opportunity where we can collaborate and do some fun things together. As we're waiting for a few people more to join this group, I'm going to just get started because a lot of people are going to be watching this on the replay. And I didn't realize when I put this together that it was Friday afternoon of Memorial Day weekend. And so I know we've got some people that are off with family getting ready for Memorial Day. But for those who are in and watching us from either YouTube Live or our Facebook group or our Facebook page, welcome. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I started nonprofit campaigns. So if you can bear with me for a little quick commercial. I've been doing nonprofit fundraising for 40 years and started in 1981 as the aquatic director for a YMCA in Long Beach. And they told me I had to be a part of the staff that managed the annual sustaining campaign, as they called it back then. And I basically said, hey, I'm a swim coach. I'm not a fundraiser. 20 years later, in 2001, I was a CFRE and doing consulting for nonprofits, from everything from American Red Cross. We've worked with Salvation Army and the YMCAs and a lot of smaller nonprofits. And what I have found is so many nonprofit fundraising professionals are on this, what I call the hamster wheel of trying to chase the next grant. And some feel that corporate fundraising is the answer, and they go out and after campaigns. And when you look at this pie chart, and you see where the total contributions came from. Now, this is a 2016 slide, but the numbers don't change that much. If anything, I think the individual number goes up. So those that are thinking, gosh, I just need to write grants and it's going to be the answer to my question, foundations are 15% of the total funding that every year to nonprofit corporations. They are typically finite, and you have, we've got a new person that joined us in here. I'm going to welcome Opportunity Foundation. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, and then I'm going to come back to my presentation.
Hi, I'm Debbie Inkley, Executive Director and founder of the Opportunity Foundation of America. We work with children and adults who are severely disabled.
Awesome. Now, where are you located?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Salt Lake City, Utah. Thank you for joining us as a panelist in here. I was just doing a quick commercial and talking about why we founded nonprofit campaigns. Real quickly, the team, I'm going to back up here a little bit. Our team.
You also need to remove the slide. There you go.
Yeah. Our team at Nonprofit Campaigns, it consists of Danya, my ex-wife, who's our chief consultant, myself there in the middle, and my son, Mark Webb. Danya's got her master's in philanthropy from Bay Path College, and she recently made a comment. I don't know if she'll be joining us live today, but she recently made a comment that the universities are just not teaching what we're training people to do at nonprofit campaigns. And so we're honored to be here. We're a family organization. And now I'm going to go back to what I was saying before about where do the contributions in the United States come from every year. As we said, a lot of nonprofits are on the hamster wheel and they're chasing foundations, which make up 15% of the total contributions that are made every year to nonprofits. These are usually finite, and a lot of nonprofits are tending to twist their mission to fit into the grant rather than finding the fundraising that really fits their mission. A lot of also nonprofits, and I hear this all the time, how do we get more corporations? Well, corporations are important, but they make up only 5% of the contributions that are made to nonprofits every year. These are not write-offs for corporations. These tend to be they're looking for marketing dollars, and they're using their marketing budget and looking for those opportunities to get in front of people. But overwhelmingly, the whopping majority, it's actually more than 72% now, getting closer to 80%, is coming from individuals, and 8% that is coming from bequests. Obviously, those are from individuals. And if you look at the corporations and corporate giving, they're all owned by individuals. And so the most important thing is how do we connect and develop a program to go after these individuals. And when you, our next slide here is the old-fashioned pyramid of giving, right? There's lots of marketing opportunities that you can go after. Online giving is very important right now. And social media giving is a biggie. Direct mail has been around for years, and it's still an essential part of our nonprofit fundraising. Bequests and, benefits and special events. I can't read my own slide. Benefits and special events. And we're going to let Jeff Kelly talk about that a little bit more. To me, special events are fundraisers more than they are fundraisers. And there is a lot of opportunities to bring new people into your organization with those. But what we teach at Nonprofit Campaigns is how to take all of those annual giving strategies and develop what we call high impact annual fundraising campaigns that look a lot like a capital campaign, perhaps. Campaigns that engage your board members, giving them ownership of the fundraising process. And then, of course, we move up the ladder and up the pyramid to major gift giving and then capital and special campaigns. If you look at every successful nonprofit in the United States, they're either starting or in the middle of or wrapping up some kind of a major campaign. And then, of course, endowment campaigns are very important. And then lastly, the estate and plan giving stuff. We should be encouraging people that have options for them to leave a portion of their estate to our nonprofits that they love, because we've worked for years to develop them to the top of this pyramid of giving. Okay, that is my commercial. For anybody here that is in our group, Nonprofit Campaigns Community, Inspiring Fundraising Success, quick question. We did a question. It was actually Philanthropy Friday, last week's question. And then what is the magic word? And then we brought it over to the our Monday motivation. And in that post in our group, we asked you to listen to a 14-minute audio that was recorded in 1961 by Earl Nightingale. I love listening to that guy's voice, but more importantly, his message. Did anybody here get a chance to listen to that? And can you tell us what is the magic word? And I'm looking at our campaign, our chats from people in the community group. In our community group and Facebook page. If you're there, chat in, let us know the magic word. Nobody's responding. I don't see any chat. So I encourage you, when we get done with this, please go ahead, go to the group and listen to Earl Nightingale's 14-minute audio, and you can post in there, what is the magic word? By the way, I did post the other day a bonus because nobody answered it in our Facebook group. And so I put a bonus in there. Kimberly, if you're listening, whoever answers that question first gets a free copy of our course, Impact. What is the name of our course? I've got it here somewhere. Introduction to High Impact Campaigns. There it is. Intro to High Impact Campaigns, a guide to prepare for success. And that is a $199 training live or training opportunity that we offer at our website. We're going to give that free to the first person that answers the question. Don't go and do it right now. But as soon as we're done, please go there, answer that. You will be the winner of the course. And I look forward to going back after this and hearing those comments. All right. We have one more person that has joined that wants to be a live panelist. Talina Hurst, but it says her device is not connected. So we're going to wait a little bit. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go down to Debbie, I believe it is, right, at Opportunity Foundation of America. And I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about your nonprofit. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to discuss, this is your opportunity. Go ahead, Debbie.
Okay. So I'd mentioned in my introduction that we work with kids that are severely disabled. And I'm talking, this particular population only has control of the movement of their eyes, nothing else. They can't speak. They cannot use any of their limbs, nothing. A number of years ago, there was a technology that was developed by a computer science professor at Boston College, and his name was Professor James Gibbs, and he developed what was called the EagleEyes. And through the use of tiny electrodes about the size of the end of my little finger, one above the eye, one below, and one on either temple, these electrodes pick up what's called the electrical ocular graphic. And in layman's term, that means the way the cornea and the retina rotate in the eye socket. Those electrodes have very thin wires that then plug into a device that's probably about 4 inches by 4 inches, that actually has a standalone motherboard in it that serves as a magnifier. And then that magnifier is then supported by a USB cable to the computer. It takes that electrical signal of the eye, magnifies it 10,000 times, and converts it into the mouse cursor. It is really incredible technology. Now, don't get me wrong, these kids don't jump on board and start surfing the web and writing emails. We have to teach them basic cause, and effect, because they have never done anything on their own. And so we start out, one of the very first games that Professor Gibbs wrote was, and I'm sure you gentlemen will remember, when you were little kids and you eye painted, or finger painted, I mean. And so Professor Gibbs wrote a software program called eye painting. So the child has got the electrodes on there looking directly at the computer screen, or you can even take the computer and plug it into a flat screen television. So then the child has even a bigger surface to be working on. And as the child begins to blink his or her eyes, you see splashes of red and yellow and blue and green. And you can modify that software to become circles, stars, or squares. And when the child internalizes, and this always makes me so emotional, that it was they that just did that, the twinkle in their eye and the smile on their face is absolutely unbelievable, because most of these kids cannot even laugh. But when they internalize, now some of them will internalize right away, some it may take a couple of weeks, some it may take a couple of months, but when they do, it is just absolutely fabulous. Now, we have about 40 different cause and effect games that the kids can play. And we have a manual that the parents or the teachers can follow. So once the parents or the teachers follow, they are ready to move forward to the second step. They can start with numbers, letters, and colors, and that type of thing. And so, as we all know, there's not a magic answer for our kids, but this is a great way to open up their world and let their mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and their siblings know that there's intelligence here. It's just hidden behind a body that does not work well.
Fascinating. Now, how long when did you establish and found this nonprofit?
Well, we began in about 2005. We signed a formal license agreement with Boston College to become the sole manufacturer, distributor, and trainer for the technology.
Wow.
Yeah. So we work with, excuse me, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to hear, I'm going to ask you some questions, but please continue.
We work with individual families, we work with schools, and we work with other nonprofit organizations that work with children with severe disabilities. And
so what is your greatest fundraising challenge?
Getting people to attend our fundraiser. I think that is, we generally get right around 100 people to attend our fundraiser. And, I would like to get a lot more people there, because the more people that can learn about who we are and what we do. We have a very compelling story. Obviously, I'm quite biased about it, but I mean, giving somebody a life, you can't put a price tag on that. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what EagleEyes is doing, is helping to open up this child's life.
And I am always so inspired by the missions that our nonprofits in this group are going out and achieving. It's fascinating to me and inspiring. Now you said you got a fundraiser and getting people to attend. Is that an in-person fundraiser that you once a year?
It will be this year. We weren't able to do it last year because of COVID, but this year we're scheduled for September 16th.
Ah, very good. So, and Jeff and I have something for you that I know that can assist you with that. We at Nonprofit Campaigns, I went out and looked at all the different options for virtual fundraisers that during COVID, and quite frankly, most of them were boring. And we at Nonprofit Campaigns partnered with an organization called FundDuel that was inspired after the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, and which raised $1 billion, and people were dumping ice all over themselves, all over the world. And I'm going to play a quick commercial, 1 minute here, of what FundDuel offers, and then I'm going to open up to Jeff, because Jeff is kind of an expert in this stuff and how to engage not only the people that are at your fundraiser, but how to include and double and triple those numbers of people that are online watching this. And in my opinion, nonprofit in-person fundraisers are never going to be the same. They're always going to need a virtual component from now on. That's something that we've learned with COVID. It's best to do things in face-to-face. But this is what I thought was a real fun opportunity. And so we joined partners with them. And this is a quick commercial of FundDuel.
FundDuel is a revolutionary gamified fundraising website. We use competition, challenges, live virtual events, and real-time online auctions to make fundraising fun and exciting. Sponsors love us because of how much we help grow their brand. How does it work? Instead of just asking donors to give directly to your cause, we turn it into a game. Donors give through a team that is raising money for your cause. The team that raises the most money wins. And the best part? All the money raised from each team goes to your cause. Sponsors will have their name and logo displayed on the campaign page. They can even sponsor a team. Anyone who donates will think of themselves as members of that team. What a great way to generate brand loyalty. If your fundraising is suffering because you can't hold your normal annual event, we've got you covered. Run your live event virtually right on your FundDuel page. If your event includes an auction, you can hold it with a live auctioneer. Donors can bid directly through your FundDuel page using their phones, tablets, or computers. Everything you need, all in one place. Visit us at fundduel.com/start to set up your FundDuel campaign today.
All right, and that is our quick commercial on FundDuel. Dr. Linda Hansen, who's the founder of FundDuel, joins us from time to time on these live forums. Jeff, give me your 2 cents, and how do we help Debbie take this September event with hopefully 100 people live and make it into something really spectacular and that can increase their universe?
Debbie, there's a lot more, of course, that would go into a strategy. So these are not necessarily answers, but good questions for you to consider.
Okay.
Your biggest asset is your story, and the story of the people that you are impacting, the lives you're impacting, the families you're impacting. And what donors want is donors want to change the world.
Right.
And you have an organization that can give that to them. And when a donor, writes a check or participates in an event, the idea is that they're getting this emotional hit off of that, right? Because they're changing the world when they do that. And your organization provides them that opportunity. And so your story is your key way to identify with people. And this is why nonprofits talk a lot about Facebook and social media and TikTok and things like that, because those are platforms where you get to share your story and you get to show you have your own channel where you can distribute information out to people who are interested in your organization. So I think the key here in generating participants, one key is finding very effective ways to share your story. And many nonprofits would benefit greatly from development of videos that do specifically this, that are really just designed from the very beginning to communicate the story of impact. Not so much to feature the organization, but to feature the impact on real people and the families. Because that allows a donor to understand their role in the organization, which is that they can give money and lives can be changed, right? We do amazing work in nonprofit land and in fundraising land. And so if you've got the story in the right place and you've got a couple assets that you can easily share, that will help people find you. And the second key, so that's key number one. The second key is to understand that your donors and your supporters, they're in different categories. We might call these personas in fundraising. You might call them segments if we're talking more like email marketing. Some of your supporters will want to come to an event. Some of your supporters will not. And typically the number of supporters that will not come to an event is typically significantly larger than those that will. So when you approach a fundraising event, it's important to consider, how do I want to attract people to the event, but also how am I going to engage the majority of my segments of donors who won't come to the event? How do I engage them and give them some sort of opportunity to participate? When you kind of zoom out and take that bigger picture approach, and you've got some story assets that you can share, you've now got the building blocks of treating your event as an overall campaign instead of just a captive audience fundraising experience. And so again, these are not answers. These are more questions and what do you haves and please considers. But these are the two fundamental building blocks of putting on a successful fundraising event for a nonprofit like yours, where the story is amazing. The richness of the story is there no matter what. I mean, like there's videographers storytellers would love to be part of this, right? Because the story is very rich and very easy to see and understand.
Well, one of the things we decided this year, we generally will invite either an EagleEyes mom or an EagleEyes dad to be at the fundraiser and give a presentation and actually have their child with them there. But this year we decided, we have never filmed it before. So this year we have decided we would film it. And then, of course, I mean, we're going to have to edit it down because anybody doesn't want to watch a 10-minute talk. But even if we can edit it down to just 3 or 4 minutes, the talks by the parents is so meaningful and so heartfelt. I mean, you started putting boxes of Kleenexes on the tables at the fundraiser because people are so touched by the story of knowing that their child is really there when they thought for several years that their child wasn't there. So I thank you, Jeff.
Amazing.
That'll be great to film it. Yes.
One quick follow-up is that the level of video storytelling that you're capable of will be directly correlated to the number of followers you attract and the amount of money you raise.
Okay.
So keep in mind that when you're searching for someone to help you with video, or you're thinking about how to implement video, you've got some footage and you're trying to figure out how to put together something that will tell your story. Engaging a storyteller who does story through video is going to bring you to an entirely different level than if I tried to create a video telling my story. Because that professional storyteller who works in video, they know how to format that story. Like films, like if you watch a film, films follow a pattern. And if you watch any kind of major movie coming out these days, they all have the exact same schedule, and you can see certain events happen. And like when the culminating event happens in a film, you've got 7 minutes before the credits roll. Every time. because there's a structure to storytelling in that format. And so just understand that go for video however you can, and also understand that the quality of the storytelling that comes out in that, it may be worth an investment because it will correlate to the people you gather around you in the community and the revenue that can generate for you.
Okay. That sounds great.
Thank you. Add to what Jeff is saying, the great thing about that is when you create a video, it's not just for one-time use. You can maybe, debut it at an event for fundraising, but then it can be posted on your website, on other social networking platforms, and you can get use out of it quite a bit beyond just the one event. And I think for all of us to remember that, nobody wants to revisit the politics of this last year, but one of the things that we've learned is big campaigns can be run by small donations. You saw with $4 or $5, $15 here, $25 here, that sometimes we need to be tapping in, like Rob was showing earlier with the diagram. It's not just about what we kind of in our minds perceive as our big donors, whether that's corporate or whatever, but most of our income is going to come from individuals. And a lot of times that's not huge donations. It's a lot of little small ones.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. Right.
That's really awesome. Yeah. What you guys are doing is amazing. And I think it shouldn't be too hard to tell your story because it's already so gripping. And even when you tell it, you can tell just how powerful it is by the emotion behind it. And so I would definitely agree with Jeff that some of these things, there might be an upfront cost to produce, but it's definitely worth it because people connect emotionally, right? And they're always going to give to something that they connect with. People rarely give to something that's not somehow personally connected to them because everybody nowadays, everybody's appealing for funds. Everybody wants you to make donations, and all of us make the donations to something that we've personally connected with, whether it's a story, whether it's a moment, whether it's experience, whatever that is. And definitely great stuff that you're doing. And I think that you can even do more.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you, Rabbi Brumbach and Jeff. Debbie, I want to ask you one more question, and then we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to
Please.
interview the rabbi here for a little bit. How many board members do you have in your organization?
We have 11.
11 board members. And so I think the national average is somewhere around 15, 16. And I'm a believer of big boards. For fundraising purposes and engaging in the community. Now, do all of your board members, do they give an annual contribution that is meaningful, and do they ask others to give?
Usually. That's the way I will put it. Most often.
And that's the goal, right? And I'd love to talk with you sometime about how to engage those board members and give them, getting board members to get ownership, what I call ownership of the fundraising process, and take that and become the leaders of a campaign is really crucial in developing those relationships with individuals. So perhaps we can get together offline and have a conversation. I'd love to talk with you more about that. Great.
I would really like that. That'd be helpful.
All right. So let's switch gears for a minute. And I want to interview Rabbi Brumbach. Rabbi Brumbach is my cousin, and we are a family of Pentecostals, and we ended up with a rabbi in the family. So first thing I'm going to ask you is how did that happen?
I mean, that's a long story that none of us have time for, but every family has multiple elements within a family, and so we do have also Jewish family, and and also I just really was drawn to embrace Judaism and ended up becoming a rabbi. But as far as this particular, panel, I think it's important to, especially for those of you who work in religious nonprofits, to realize that often most people think of clergy as, we golf all week or mountain bike or surf or depending on where you live. And then we show up once a week and we do our thing and then that's it. But often what you publicly see clergy do is only about 10% of our jobs. So the rest of it is running nonprofits, right? So you have to become experts at volunteer coordination, at fundraising, at, of being able to work with people. Yes, there's the counseling and other things, but most of it is nonprofit work. And in a way, it's what, most clergy members fail in their first congregations because they didn't know all of this, right? They go to seminaries and they're taught how to, think religiously, think of theology and things, but they don't think about what it actually takes to run nonprofit organizations. And so I really believe that fundraising is going to be going into the future a huge way that we need to fund our organizations differently than we used to think. And part of that is now with the competition of everybody's funds, people want to give to what they feel is the most effective. And also the way that we're collecting funds has radically changed. And it's especially shifted over the course of this pandemic. So I really encourage, especially those in churches that pass plates, that's almost done and gone, right? Even before the pandemic, the amount of people that would still give by, for example, passing an offering plate is very low because most people nowadays, as we all know, they don't carry checkbooks. Most people don't carry cash. And so if that's the way that you're expecting people to contribute to your organization or, at an event or something like that, we have to think much bigger. So for me, I guess I didn't do a good job introducing myself earlier. I'm the senior rabbi of a congregation in the Los Angeles area. And I also serve as the vice president of a rabbinic organization. So working with other colleagues on not only sort of more rabbi stuff, but some of these exact issues, as well as I'm an academic. So I'm really involved in the nonprofit world. And so I'm familiar with the challenges that all of us face, even if we might have uniquely, different issues, but many of them are the same. And so I really appreciate, I'm jotting down notes, Jeff. This isn't the time to do it now, but I feel like we've met somewhere. But anyway, I'm jotting down notes too, because I'm constantly also trying to learn of how we can do what we do better.
Now, Joshua, you are a Messianic Jewish rabbi, and I grew up tithing, and it was kind of
Right.
It was very ingrained in our community that we should tithe to our church. What percentage of people tithe today in your congregation?
So, I mean, nowadays it depends on the congregation and where people are from. In much of the church world, focuses primarily on tithing. So it's voluntary donations, right? People are encouraged to give a tithe, which is 10%. But the whole idea is that even those who don't necessarily tithe the whole 10%, that it's a free will donation. In the Jewish world, in most synagogues, you pay dues. So it's you pay a certain, depending on the way that the synagogue is set up, a certain percentage. Usually it's 1 or 2% of your income. So technically tithing is even more, so it's a different way of collecting funds. And in fact, many synagogues are now embracing kind of the free will tithing idea. And our congregation has always encouraged tithing. But I would say, as far as those who are faithful tithers who actually give 10%, I'm willing to guess, as not the bookkeeper, but as since I don't do the specifics of the books, I see all the big, the reports and everything of just. But I would be willing to bet that it's probably only about 10 or 15% of our congregation. The rest of our congregation, they give what they can here and there, but they're not as consistent as, that 10 or 15% who are just the faithful people who give regularly, and they give, 10%. And many even go above and beyond. They do whatever they can to support the community. But again, many congregations are small. The average size congregation in the United States is between 40 and 50 people. And so in many cases, especially as giving trends change, that congregations, especially those who have full-time clergy, have to look for additional opportunities to raise funds in order to, to continue to function and meeting the needs that they have. And that becomes even harder in a world where there's greater competition for people's funds.
Fascinating. And I have found that the churches that are the most, have the most percentage of tithers, it's really become kind of a culture. And everybody is, and we talk a lot in fundraising about developing a culture of philanthropy versus a culture of charity, where a culture of charity is we write checks and we take them in, and we view donations as a transaction versus that culture of philanthropy, where we are really developing relationships with people and involving them in their mission. Comment on that.
This is huge. And I think there's a lot to be said here, because a lot of the giving, especially of organizations that have been around for a long time, and I include institutions like religious organizations, is we've sort of just assumed if people come that they're going to give. And I think that we really need to change that perspective, that often in circles of churches and synagogues, there's really a focus on this idea of generosity, right? But also the congregations where they're really doing well are congregations that have done a great job personally connecting with their people, right? They've given them reasons to continue to support the congregation. And there is something exciting that people believe that they're giving to, that if people can't see the results, that something tangible, that our community or our organization is doing something great, they're going to be less inspired to give. And this is huge, especially in dying churches where people are trying to guilt people into giving, and they're not inspired to do that, right? You need to inspire people to want to give to, people want to give to something that they believe that even a small amount, my $5 matters. My $25 is going to make a difference. And you need to be able to show that to people and inspire an idea of generosity, that not only do we want to be generous as individuals, but our congregation, our organization, our whatever it is also a generous organization. I think this is one of the reasons why people really like these, there are different companies and organizations now that, do this kind of sometimes it's social justice stuff or whatever. Like for a long time, Tom's was really big on, right? You buy a pair of our shoes and we give a pair of shoes to somebody else as an example, right? Or glasses, a pair of eyeglasses, and we give glasses to those who need glasses. And so, but it's this idea that something good is going to result of what we give. And especially in the religious world, people nowadays view my tithe as, yes, I give some to my local congregation, but then I also support this organization and I support this, particular thing or this individual person. And they view it as spreading it out a little more, which becomes, more of a challenge. Again, I think we have to really rethink the way that we approach all of this. And we can't just assume that just because people are attending your congregation, attending your event, they stop by your website, that they're just going to give naturally. We have to give them reasons, like Jeff was talking about, to do that. And Debbie, what you're doing and what all of us are striving to do.
Fascinating. I'm so into listening to what your message was. I forgot I was the moderator and I'm supposed to be here asking questions.
That's totally fine.
Let's take a moment, and if you're listening in our from Facebook, and type some questions for these people. If you have a question, please type it in the chat. Let us know. We can all jump in here and answer this stuff. We've got about 20 minutes left in this forum, and is there while we're waiting for people to ask questions from Facebook, if Debbie and Jeff and Joshua, you have other stuff that you guys want to add and jump in there, please do.
One of the other really sweet parts of my story, of the EagleEyes story, is that if a child is, by the time they're a young teenager, let's say 13, they can be trained to become EagleEyes facilitators. It is not a difficult technique to use. So siblings can work with their sibling who happens to have the disabilities. And it's maybe, let's say we've got Jonathan here who has got spinal muscular atrophy and he's got a big brother and his big brother's friends are over all the time. Then the friends can help Joshua also. And it just begins to change the whole dynamics. They come all together and they're helping their brother who has been on the sidelines before. That doesn't mean mom and dad haven't taken care of him. It's just there's never been an avenue for him to access to play with his brothers and his big friends. And now they can do that. So it's really pretty cool that way, you know? Can I share one more story?
Please do.
Okay, about a year and a half ago, I get a call one day from this gentleman who says, Mrs. Inkley, he says, I am a software engineer and my name is John, but I'm not calling from the company that I work for. I am just calling because I am fascinated by children with disabilities. What type of software can I write for you? And I looked at my phone and went, are you serious? Well, I put him in touch with the gentleman that handles all of the technical side of the fence, the foundation. And there's only 2 of us that are paid employees. We are very, very small. But anyway, within 3 months, we had a brand new board maker software program that if you were buying at retail would cost around $300 to $350. Okay.
Wow.
And he produced that for the foundation, and it can be used with other technology also, not just EagleEyes. And he has never asked for a penny for it.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Isn't that incredible? So it's kind of like sharing the wealth in a way, because people, like you said, Rabbi, people want to help. They just need to have that opportunity to do it.
Well, and also giving people ideas of ways that they can help too, which is great, because that was way that he was able to do something bigger than just giving you, for example, like a $350 donation, because that's something that keeps on giving, if you will.
Yes, exactly. And we put it on our website so anybody can access it. So it's really cool.
Fascinating. Jeff, anything you want to add into this discussion as we're waiting for people to type in questions for the panelists in the chat, please?
I think one thing that we all have learned in nonprofit land in 2020 in 2021 is that we're able to successfully build relationships with our donors and our partners and our sponsors and our beneficiaries online. We don't need them in a room. We don't need them in an office to further relationships with them. And as my team looks to 2021 and the clients we're working with and returning to in-person activities particularly for fundraising, it's really, really critical that organizations not forget that we can be successful with fundraising and building relationships online. They don't have to be in the room. And so we need to resist any temptation in the organization to snap back to only in-room captive audience luncheons and galas and breakfasts and events. It's really, really important to bring that learning forward and to apply to our events instead of this small idea of we're going to fundraise from the people in the room, to this big idea that we're going to engage donors. And one of the ways we're engaging donors is with an in-person event. This is a really critical takeaway that I hope all nonprofits understand and grab onto the tow rope and get pulled right into the new way if that's not something that was already in your organization.
Good comments. Thank you. As I said earlier, I believe that special events are fundraisers, and they do raise money, but they can be a lot of work. They can cost a lot of money to get a venue and put that steak and potatoes in front of somebody. And it's what we do with those people after the event that really, in my opinion, matters. How we develop that culture of philanthropy and engage with them. Rabbi, go ahead and jump in there on that.
Oh no, I was just going to add to what Jeff was saying. I think this is huge, and what you're saying, Rob, is that those events are important. It's what we do outside, and I think we really have to realize that I think most of us, we think, get it, but there's still so many people that I think are trying to hold on to the world of pre-pandemic and realize that through this last year and a half or so that the world really has changed. And if our organizations are going to survive, then we need to change with it. And that really does mean finding ways to engage people, not just in person, but continuing to do so virtually in ways that inspire and not just, bore us all.
Thank you.
Tailoring that experience to a donor, right? Individual donors want different things, and making sure that you're providing different ways for different donors to engage and experience your organization is really how you become successful at that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, folks. I have been calling for people to ask questions and post them in the group. And for some reason, I am not seeing it. And I think it might be a technical glitch on my part. Do any of the other panelists, are you seeing comments in that comment section? Go ahead and chat for a minute, guys, while I go into our Facebook and look if there's a bunch of comments that I'm not seeing for a technical group. And I'll be back here in a minute, but you guys are doing great, man. And keep this discussion going for a minute, and I'll see if we have any questions that I'm missing.
Rabbi, I'd love to know if you've seen some trends particular to religious congregations. I know many religious organizations have had to change how they interact with their community members, but I'd love to have some insight on some of those significant trends that you think have kind of shifted the world.
Yeah, a lot of them I've sort of just touched on, but I think the biggest thing is that sense of virtual participation, that a congregation that sort of struggled with streaming and all of that stuff and didn't find a way through the pandemic to make that jump. I think that no longer, just as we're talking about our fundraising events, no longer can we think of services or any kind of events as only in person. We have to think of somehow those events have to be both. Not every event has to be virtual, but virtual has to be, for our survival, a long-term, a forever component. It's just radically changed the way that we do things. The other thing is the way people give. I mentioned that, especially in the wider Christian world, a lot of donations were, in many, especially small congregations, were still collected with the passing the basket. But even in the years leading up to the pandemic, the percentage of that was going down, because it's making an assumption about your donors, right? Your assumption is that they're going to show up with a check or cash in hand, instead of realizing most people don't carry cash and they don't carry checks. And congregations that have already made a jump on this then did pretty well through the pandemic. And then congregations that had no way for people to give virtually, then they suffered the worst, because now all of a sudden, when you're not having services in person, in order for people to physically put something in a donation box or in a plate or something, they really struggled. And I think that in many cases, I mean, I've encouraged that. I think the passing the plate is dead, in my opinion. Over the last year, the people have already been trained, if you will, in a different way of giving. And I think, it's actually even better for the organization to encourage people to give digitally, because it leaves what all of us, in the nonprofit organizational world love is information, right? You get, for how to continue those relationships, those, the friends that Rob was talking about. So those are, I think, just two examples of radical ways, not only the way that we engage people, but even the way that we engage their giving and support of the organization, as well as that idea that I think we need to think bigger than just in person or people donating in the traditional sense.
What do you think is the biggest, what's the format, the most popular format that people are giving in your congregation, Rabbi?
So, I mean, nowadays, most of our donations are now coming in virtually, whether it's through, there's a lot of platforms out there that you can use, but there's also things that have a very low maintenance costs, things like, PayPal or something like that. We also, there's lots of options. Our specific congregation receives most of its income virtually, and we still have a lot of, especially older members, who mail in checks. But even though we still have our sort of the boxes in the back of the sanctuary, very little anymore, especially after the pandemic. Very little comes in that way anymore. Most of everything comes in during the week.
And I know a lot of young people really, they kind of prefer the passive giving method, and what we're finding more. Debbie, talk about where funds are coming from to your organization besides this annual 100-person special event.
Mostly virtually, I would say through PayPal, the biggest part of the time. We do an email campaign where we will send out emails and some paper letters also to people asking. And through that, some will write us a check, but the majority of them will make that donation on PayPal.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. All right. We have 7 minutes left of this. And so this is kind of open forum time where we can talk about anything nonprofit fundraising we'd like to discuss. I'm going to ask Debbie a question on that pyramid of giving. Do you have any endowment type opportunities for people to give that legacy gift? Are we encouraging that for your donors?
We really haven't, and we really need to do that, because obviously it costs us a good portion of money to continue to manufacture and distribute the EagleEyes systems. So they are manufactured here in Utah, but it is still an expensive thing to do.
Right.
How many clients do you serve?
We are serving right now probably close to 500, but in schools, multiple kids can use one EagleEyes system because they're only on for about an hour at a time. So in a school, 4 or 5 kids could be using the same systems. The electrodes need to be wiped off with alcohol swabs and that type of thing. But other than that, there's no problem at all with several kids using the same system.
Fascinating. I encourage all organizations to come up with what I call an endowment recognition society. And so that's something that we can talk about later, but giving them recognition and giving them a vehicle to donate not only bequests, but stock and I know Bitcoin is even something that people are donating, and some are going after. Rabbi, talk to me about that at your congregation level. Do you see a lot of those gifts?
Some congregations do better than others at this. It's like really encouraged. That's something that we also, as Debbie was saying, really need to do better at. You will occasionally have someone who has written the congregation into the will or something like that. But that's something I think people often don't even think about. And I think we need to do a better job communicating to encourage people to consider including us in your will or special gifts, those kinds of things. I mean, that's something I think Jeff probably has some great thoughts on.
Certainly. I mean, they're a type of donor, right? We talked about segmentation or personas earlier, and they're a very important type of donor, and certain organizations attract them. Certain types of nonprofits attract them, and people are very inclined to give in that way. And certain organizations don't. And for the organizations that do, it's very, very important to have a very clear communication plan with people about being able to build in end-of-life giving and legacy giving into their lives, and how they can leave an amazing, lasting impact if they choose to do that. And then to enable them to do that and provide the resources they need to set that up in their plan for their legacy.
Okay, we've got 4 minutes left, and we finally got a question here from Susu, and that's watching from one of our Facebook pages, and she says, "What would be a starting career position for someone who is transitioning into the fundraising profession?" So she is interested in engaging in becoming a nonprofit fundraiser, and I'm going to ask Jeff, do you want to start off with that? And
Certainly, there are many paths into fundraising, and many people come in through the event planning path, and you want to be somebody who puts together events and campaigns and things like that, and so you can get a position as a event planner at an organization, and that's one way to come on into the fundraising organization. Another is to have some sort of related marketing specialty. Perhaps you're very good at social media or websites, or maybe you're a really good copywriter. You really know how to create story in what you create in the world. So there's many different types of activities in fundraising, and there's many different sizes of organizations. And the larger organizations, of course, will have copywriters and graphic designers and storytellers and videographers all on their internal team. Whereas other organizations will have one executive director, and that's the entire team. So you can just do a little analysis of what your skills are and what you enjoy doing. And if that lines up with some sort of fundraising activity, you can start doing that work somewhere and move on into trying to find a full-time position doing that.
Rabbi, do you have any comments on this?
Well, I mean, I think in addition to what Jeff just said, that there definitely are always organizations and even, I mean, really all the time I'm seeing postings for development, individuals, right? So there are definitely positions out there. And I think getting those, in addition to having some of the right educational background, which can be helpful, but is really what Jeff was talking about, is I think learning and helping to tell a story. And sometimes that might entail telling that story even to a potential employer of like what you can do and the skills that you bring that can better their organization, especially developmentally through fundraising and things. I think more and more, and we all realize just how much visually through social media and other avenues, the difference that is making for us, and especially in raising funds. And so the more that you can be involved in telling that story, whether it is you're a social media guru or whatever, that's really important, and really sell that part of it to yourself.
Debbie, are you looking for hiring anybody over there?
I so wish I was. I wish I was.
You're the founder. Do you have any staff?
One staff. Ron is our trainer who travels the country training our EagleEyes parents in the schools and that type of thing. But it's just basic. Well, I shouldn't say it's just big. We have a lot of great volunteers that help us. with many, many things.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess to give my 2 cents, Susu, I would say whatever it is you are passionate about, find a way to connect your passion in life in doing things into the nonprofit that you want to work for. And don't be afraid to go out and ask questions in our community, ask questions of the nonprofits that you're most passionate about what they need and what niche you can serve. I think a troubling statistic is the average length on the time on the job for nonprofit development directors is something like a year and a half, 15, 16 months, as I recall. And that, I mean, it takes a year, and I think as a development director to really get their arms around that. So the fact that we have such high turnover in development field is troubling. It tells me they need a lot of support and they need a lot of help, and they need those board members to become engaged and participate and support the organization, because and I got to say, there's a thing amongst nonprofit executives that get burnt out. You've got to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. And I think we've learned a lot in 2021 that taking care of yourself and being able to recharge and not work 80-hour weeks are real important. Any parting thoughts? We've gone an hour and 1 minute, and I would like to go around our panelists. First of all, I want to thank all the panelists for being here today. Rabbi, Jeff, Debbie at Opportunity Foundation of America. We're going to go around, let you guys give your parting shots, and then I'll make a few comments. And of course, we want to thank everybody that is watching from YouTube Live and Facebook, and those of you that'll be joining on the replay later. Debbie, why don't you go first, and we'll go around.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you, Rob, for providing me with this opportunity to speak. And anyone who is listening, please take a minute and check out our website. It's really very easy. There's 4 letters, OFOA, and that stands for Opportunity Foundation of America.net. There are several videos on there and a few stories, and it will give you a lot of information about who we are and what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, and it was a pleasure to have you here and be able to spotlight your nonprofit today. Jeff Kelly, Butterfly Fundraising, thank you for joining us as well. I look forward to connecting with you more here in the future. I know Rabbi Brumbach wants to do the same thing. Go ahead, Jeff, your parting shot.
My parting shot is understand that fundraising is a game and you can win it if you think about it as a game you're working to achieve. And if you need help with figuring out how to play that game, there are many, many resources out here for you. And it's well worth your time and effort to find a business or an organization that can support you with training or expertise on the revenue side for your organization.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you being here today. Rabbi Brumbach.
Yeah, I mean, adding what Jeff said, what I would just encourage anybody, and no matter what organization that you're working with, is it's easy to kind of hear things like this discussion today and hear that, oh, I'm supposed to think out of the box and be creative about how I reach people. And then you feel overwhelmed because you're already stressed out enough. But to be encouraged, not only what Jeff said, it is possible, but we don't necessarily have to be the ones to come up with all the brilliant ideas. My wife always says, she's the executive director of a large organization. She always says an expert is somebody else, right? is that always feel free to reach out to people like Jeff or Debbie or Rob or anyone who can help you and your organization do better. It's really important that we really are encouraged to reach out to others in order to make that game, as Jeff put it, and to win the game, especially when it comes to fundraising.
Thank you, Rabbi, for your parting comments. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. If you have not joined our nonprofit campaigns community on Facebook group, please do so and become engaged. that community is only as good as we all make it when we become engaged. And and I want to remind everybody to go back and listen to the 14-minute audio tape that's on that on the page pinned to the top, and it is by Earl Nightingale, recorded in 1961. It's called "What is the Magic Word?" And Susu, if you're looking for input and this, I think this audio tape is vitally important. The message to anybody that's in nonprofit fundraising, but everybody. And we're going to start the 30-day challenge. So when you go in there and listen to that, I encourage you to join our 30-day challenge. You don't know what that challenge is until you listen to the audio. And for the first person that can answer the question in there, what is the magic word? You will get a free 2-hour training course worth 1.7. Well, actually, I guess the video must be almost 2 hours. It's worth 1.75 CFRE points toward becoming a CFRE. And I look forward to giving that free training away and listening to people engage in there. God bless you all for being here. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and I look forward to working with all of you as we create exciting fundraising campaigns together.
Thanks again, Rob, for having us.
All right. Aloha, everybody, from Maui, Hawaii.